Imagine this, a bitterly cold morning in the mountains of Dagestan. The wind cuts through the air, sharp like a blade. In a small courtyard, a young boy, no more than 6, stands still, his eyes locked on something that most would run from. A bear cub, not a toy, not a pet, a test. His father, Abdulmanap, says, "Wrestle him." This moment isn't about proving strength to anyone but himself. It's about teaching Khabib what the world will demand from him. In that instant, Abdulmanap isn't just raising a child, he's raising a warrior. The footage of Khabib wrestling the bear would become legendary. But that morning, in that courtyard, it was simply a father preparing his son for a world that shows no mercy to the weak. The bear wasn't the challenge. The challenge was what lay beyond it, the world. This is the story of how a little boy, born in the mountains, became the most feared fighter on the planet. A man who conquered it all, but chose to walk away at his peak. This is the story of Khabib Nurmagomedov, the eagle who soared higher than anyone thought possible and landed on his own terms. Khabib was born on September 20th, 1988, in a small village hidden in the Caucasus Mountains. A place where the air is thin, the winds are fierce, and the people are forged in the fires of hardship. Dagestan isn't a place where warriors are made, it's a place where warriors are born. The land, raw and unforgiving, doesn't care if you're ready, it just demands you survive. Khabib's father, Abdulmanap, was a soldier, a man who didn't show love the way most did. His love was tough, his love was discipline. Every morning, while other children slept in warm beds, Khabib was out in the snow, wrestling in the cold, pushing his body to the edge of exhaustion. It wasn't just about strength, it was about building resilience. The mountains weren't just his home, they were his training ground. From the moment he could walk, Khabib ran the hills. He lifted stones. He learned to wrestle. He didn't have to be the best. He just had to be unbreakable. By age 8, Khabib was already dominating the wrestling mats, facing men twice his size and leaving them in the dust. But this wasn't about winning trophies. It was about proving that when life pushes you to the edge, you don't break. The training wasn't easy. It wasn't about making it fun. Khabib's father didn't care if he cried. He didn't care if it hurt. What mattered was the mindset. Pain is your best teacher, Abdulmanap would say. Khabib's training wasn't the stuff of fairy tales. It was wrestling in freezing rivers, where the ice-cold water would shock his system, making his muscles scream. It was carrying boulders up slippery mountain trails, knowing that each step made him stronger. At 19, Khabib made a decision that would change everything. He was a champion wrestler, already winning at national competitions. But he didn't want just a title. He wanted to take his culture and honor to the world stage. MMA was a world of chaos, wild punches, submissions, and knockouts, a world that terrified most. But for Khabib, it was just another arena to conquer. Khabib didn't fear chaos. He knew the chaos was where he would rise. The year is 2008, a small arena in Russia, barely a crowd. This wasn't the grand UFC debut Khabib would have later, no. This was his first step onto a much smaller stage, one where only the most dedicated could endure. His opponent, Vusal Bayramov, steps in, thinking he's ready. But he's about to face something unlike anything he's ever experienced. Khabib doesn't rush. He doesn't need to. He's calm, almost detached, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment. He waits for Bayramov to make the first move, then he strikes. Takedown. Control. Then more pressure, relentless and unyielding. For Khabib, Fighting isn't just about throwing punches, it's about creating pressure. He doesn't need to knock you out with one punch. No, he breaks you down, piece by piece. He suffocates you. Round 1, it's over. By round 2, Baramov is already mentally defeated. There's a saying in Dagestan, if you can survive the mountains, you can survive anything. And Khabib? He was the mountain. The rest of the world was going to have to learn that the hard way. Fast forward to 2012. Khabib is no longer just a local hero. He's an international force. His rise was inevitable. His talent was obvious. But it was his calm, his mastery of control that had people talking. It wasn't just that he could wrestle. Yeah, it was how he wrestled, how he dominated without even breaking a sweat. His UFC debut was more than just a fight. It was a statement. Khabib walked into that octagon against Kamal Shaloris, and from the first takedown, it was clear this was no ordinary fighter. It wasn't about being flashy, being fast, or being aggressive. It was about calculation. Every move he made was deliberate. Every takedown was like placing a piece in a puzzle. His opponent was already trapped. He just didn't know it yet. Then came the bigger names. Rafael dos Anjos, a future champion, Abel Trujillo, a dangerous striker, and Pat Healy, a submission artist. One by one, Khabib dismantled them, not just physically, but mentally. He turned their strengths into weaknesses. Khabib's most dangerous weapon wasn't his grappling, it was his control of space. He was like a chess player, always thinking 3 moves ahead. For his opponents, the fight wasn't just physical, it was a game of survival, and Khabib played it perfectly. April 7th, 2018, Brooklyn, New York. Khabib Nurmagomedov stands in the UFC Octagon, the moment he's worked his entire life for. The fight isn't just about winning, it's about honor. It's about representing his family, his people, his land. His opponent, Al Iaquinta, is a dangerous striker. But Khabib's mind is laser-focused. The plan is clear. Control, takedowns, ground and pound. By the end of 5 rounds, it wasn't even close. Khabib didn't just win. He controlled every aspect of the fight, proving that in MMA, there's no greater weapon than Khabib's ground game. And it wasn't just about the fight, it was about what this moment meant to Dagestan. The mountains that had raised him, the values that had shaped him, the sacrifices his father had made to turn him into this unstoppable force. Khabib was now not just a champion, he was a symbol for the entire region. Back in the villages of Dagestan, the celebrations were not just about a belt. Khabib's victory wasn't just for him. It was for everyone who had ever faced hardship and come out the other side stronger. For every mother who had sacrificed, every father who had taught discipline, and every child who now had a hero to look up to. October 6, 2018, Las Vegas. Khabib's fight with Conor McGregor was inevitable. McGregor had insulted Khabib's family, his faith, his country. It was no longer about the belt. It was about honor, and that's where Khabib's heart truly lay. The build-up to the fight was a circus. McGregor turned it into a show, insulting Khabib in ways that went beyond the usual trash talk. He targeted Khabib's family, his religion, his culture. This was personal. For Khabib, it wasn't just a fight in the cage. It was a reckoning for every word McGregor had thrown at him. The fight itself was a display of control. From the first round, Khabib pushed McGregor into positions where he couldn't escape, takedown after takedown. McGregor's punches were wild, desperate, but Khabib was always a step ahead. Every time McGregor found a gap, Khabib closed it. Then came the moment that sealed McGregor's fate. In the fourth round, Khabib locked McGregor in a neck crank. McGregor, the man who had never been submitted, had no choice but to tap. It was over. But the fight wasn't just physical. It was a message to the world. Respect is everything. October 2020, Abu Dhabi. The world was different now. A global pandemic had changed everything. But Khabib's mission remained the same. He had a promise to keep, and Justin Gaethje stood between him and his goal. Gaethje was a knockout artist, feared for his power, his aggression. But Khabib wasn't afraid. This wasn't just another fight. This was the last fight. Khabib's 30th, the number his father had always told him to reach before hanging up his gloves. Khabib didn't just wrestle Gaethje. He didn't just fight him. He controlled him. For the first time, Gaethje couldn't impose his will. Khabib, with his calmness and precision, made Gaethje look like a novice. And then, when the time was right, Khabib locked in a triangle choke. Gaethje tapped, submitting for the first time in his career. But it wasn't just about the win. It wasn't just about the perfect record. It was about the promise he had made to his mother and father. His father, who had passed earlier that year, had asked him to retire after reaching 30-0. And so, in that moment, Khabib did what few ever could. He walked away at his peak. He didn't need fame. He didn't need riches. What he had was family, honor, and a promise that was more important than any victory. Khabib's legacy isn't just in his unbeaten record. It's in the way he lived. In a world obsessed with self-promotion, Khabib showed us that true strength doesn't come from loud words. It comes from integrity. The mountains of Dagestan still stand tall, and new warriors rise every day, inspired by the eagle. Khabib's story isn't just about victories. It's about values, loyalty, humility, and the strength to walk away when it's time to go.